Everyone told you the days of the $100 surplus rifle were dead and buried, and for the most part, they were right. If you walk into a gun show today in 2026 expecting to find crates of Mosins for the price of a steak dinner, you're gonna leave disappointed. But while the legendary deals of the early 2000s have evaporated into the history books, there is a secret tier of the market that collectors are still sleeping on. If you know how to navigate the current import batches and look past the ugly duckling reputations, you can still build a legitimate historical arsenal without taking out a second mortgage. Today, we're looking at the absolute bottom of the price floor, the 12 cheapest surplus rifles you can still get your hands on right now. Number 1. The Carcano M91 Cavalry Carbine. Coming in between $150 and $250, this is officially the entry point for military surplus in 2026. Look at the size of this thing. It's tiny, lightweight, and features one of the most unique folding spike bayonets ever issued to a military force. Most of these hit the market recently from Italian police storage, and because there are so many of them, the prices have stayed refreshingly low. Now pay attention to the gain twist rifling in the barrel. It's a weird piece of engineering where the twist rate actually increases as the bullet travels down the bore. The downside? These were often donkey guns, meant to be carried a lot and shot a little, so the stocks can be beat up. But for under $200, you're getting a functional piece of World War history that fits in a backpack. Number 2. The Italian Vitali 1870/87/15. You'll see these hovering between $180 and $300. Now here is a massive knowledge gap most new collectors fall into. This rifle looks like a Carcano's older, slightly confused grandfather, and that's because it is. Originally a black powder single shot from the 1870s, these were updated in 1915 to fire the 6.5 Carcano smokeless round to meet the desperate needs of World War I. Directive language here? Check the receiver markings. If you see that Vitali box magazine added to the bottom, you're holding a triple converted relic. But buyer beware, these are not meant for modern, high-pressure 6.5 Carcano hunting loads. This is a rifle for the reloader or the historian who wants a wall hanger that can still technically bark if you treat it with respect. It's the cheapest way to own a 19th century design that actually saw 20th century combat. Number 3. The Carcano M91 38 short rifle. This usually lands in the $200 to $350 range. If the cavalry carbine we just looked at was the compact version, this is the standard Grunt's workhorse. You'll recognize this instantly as the model associated with one of the most infamous moments in American history. But beyond the headlines, it's actually a surprisingly robust bolt action. It uses the Mannlicher style N-block clip system, which means the clip stays in the gun until the last round is fired, then drops out the bottom. Watch the way the bolt cycles. It's not as smooth as a Swedish Mauser, but it's fast. In 2026, these are the go-to for anyone who wants a shooter surplus rifle that doesn't feel like a toy. It's the perfect middle ground before we start getting into the heavier, more expensive European steel later on the list.
Number 4. The Spanish M1893 Mauser from the Oviedo Arsenal. In 2026, these are still hitting the market between $275 and $350. If you've only ever shot a modern bolt action or an 1898 pattern rifle, this is going to feel alien to you. Pay attention to the way the bolt works. This is a cock-on-close action. You'll feel the resistance as you push the bolt forward rather than when you lift it up. It's the rifle that famously gave the U.S. Army a massive headache during the Spanish-American War, leading to the development of the 1903 Springfield. These are usually chambered in 7x57mm Mauser, which is one of the most underrated, soft-shooting, and accurate rounds in history. However, here is the knowledge gap you need to watch out for. Many Oviedo rifles were later converted to 7.62x51 NATO.
Look closely at the receiver markings. If you see a 7.62 stamp, you're dealing with a later conversion that some collectors are wary of shooting with modern high-pressure loads. Stick to the 7mm original if you want the purest experience. Number 5, the Lee Enfield No. 1 Mark III, specifically the grade C or wire-wrapped versions. These typically range from $350 to $450. Now you might see that copper wire around the fore end and think it was a field repair, but look closer. That wire was intentionally added by armorers, most often in India, to reinforce the stock for launching rifle grenades. The massive recoil of a grenade would literally shatter a standard wooden stock, so they bound them in wire to keep the gun together. This is a pattern interrupt for your collection. It's a dedicated grenade rifle. You'll often see an EY stamp on the receiver, which stands for emergency use. Honest expert tip here? That doesn't mean the gun is going to explode, but it does mean it was likely relegated to secondary roles or training because the bore was no longer match grade. If you want a tack driver, this isn't it. But if you want the fastest bolt action ever made with a 10-round magazine and a unique built-to-last aesthetic, this is the cheapest way to own an Enfield in the current market.
Number 6, the Chinese Type 53 Carbine. Think of this as the Mosin Nagant's rugged, battle-scarred cousin. You can find these for $350 to $450. Mechanically, it is a direct clone of the Soviet M44, complete with that iconic side-folding spike bayonet. Look at the wood on these. Chinese Type 53s are notorious for having chew wood stocks that look like they've been through a literal wood chipper. They were used heavily in Vietnam, and most imports arrived in the US looking pretty salty. But don't let the cosmetics fool you. Underneath that grime is the same 7.62 by 54R power that made the Mosin famous. It's shorter, handier, and way more aggressive looking than a standard long rifle. If you find one with a dark bore, don't panic. A good scrubbing usually reveals plenty of rifling left. This is the rifle for the guy who wants a Mosin that doesn't need to be babied, something you can take to the range and not worry about a new scratch on the stock. Number 7, the Steyr Mannlicher M95 30 straight pull. This sits in the $375 to $500 bracket. If you're tired of the standard turn bolt dance, this rifle is going to change your entire range experience. Watch the motion of the bolt. There's no lifting or turning. You just rip it straight back and slam it forward. It's incredibly fast, but there's a catch that most people realize too late. This rifle is chambered in 8 by 56mm R, a cartridge that is, to put it mildly, a thumper. In a light carbine like this, the recoil is legendary. It's got a knowledge gap that trips up new owners. You absolutely must have the specific Mannlicher N-block clips to use it as anything other than a single shot. Without that clip, the extractor won't even hold the rim correctly. It's a mechanical marvel of the Austro-Hungarian Empire that feels like a piece of precision clockwork, even if it does try to dislocate your shoulder every time you pull the trigger.
Number 8. The Mosin Nagant M91 Standard Refurb. We're looking at $375 to $550 here. It feels weird saying that a Mosin is nearly $600 in 2026, doesn't it? But here we are. This is the rifle that defined an era of surplus, and while the cheap ones are gone, the refurbished Soviet examples are still the benchmark for a rugged, high-caliber historical piece. Pay attention to the markings on the receiver, usually a hammer and sickle inside a wreath. These were stripped down, re-blued, and put into storage after World War II, so they usually arrive with excellent bores. Visual phrasing here, look at the laminate or shellac finish on the wood. It has that distinct Soviet red glow. Pro tip for the skeptical buyer, check the bolt for matching serial numbers. A force-matched bolt is common, but an original matching set is where the long-term value lies. It's not the refined gentleman's rifle, but it's the one that will still be firing long after we're all gone. Number 9. The Turkish M38 Mauser. You'll find these in the $400 to $550 range. If you want a real Mauser 98 action without the German tax that pushes K98Ks into the thousands, this is your best bet. These things are massive. We're talking about a long-barreled beast that feels like a pike in your hands. Directive language, look at the length of that barrel. It gives you a huge sight radius, making these surprisingly accurate at distance. Most were converted from older models in the 1930s, hence the M38 designation. Here's the honest expert take. Turkish Mausers often have a reputation for being rough, but that's mostly cosmetic. The actions are incredibly strong, and they fire the ubiquitous 8mm Mauser round. This is the rifle for the person who wants a heavy-hitting, full-sized battle rifle that feels like a tank. It's the absolute sleeper of the Mauser world in 2026, providing that classic German-engineered feel at a fraction of the cost.
Number 10. The Spanish M1916 Mauser, specifically the Civil Guard models. These are currently moving for $400 to $500. Now, if you look at this rifle next to the M1893 we discussed earlier, you'll notice it's significantly shorter and handier, but there is a major honest expert warning you need to hear before you buy one. Most of these were converted in the 1950s to fire 7.62 by 51 NATO for the Guardia Civil. Directive language here, look at the side of the receiver for that 7.62 stamp. There has been a decades-long debate in the collector community about whether these small-ring Mauser actions are truly strong enough for modern, high-pressure .308 Winchester hunting loads. To stay safe, treat this as a 7.62 NATO-only rifle and avoid the heavy commercial stuff. If you follow that rule, you're getting a lightweight, fast-handling Mauser that feels much more modern than its 1916 origins suggest. It's the perfect truck gun of the surplus world, rugged, utilitarian, and historical without being a museum piece you're afraid to scratch. Number 11 is the Husqvarna Model 46 or 1640 series. These Swedish surplus beauties are hovering between $410 and $550. Now pay attention, because this is a knowledge gap that many collectors miss. While most people are fighting over military-issue Swedish M96 Mausers, these Husqvarnas were often built for the civilian market or as government-contracted paramilitary or sporting rifles, using the legendary Swedish Mauser actions. Look at the craftsmanship here. The fit and finish on a Husqvarna often puts standard military rifles to shame. They are frequently chambered in 6.55 by 55 Swede, one of the most accurate cartridges ever designed, or the heavy-hitting 9.3 by 62 mm. If you see one with the original checkering still sharp on the grip, grab it. In 2026, as purely military rifles skyrocket in price, these crossover Swedish rifles are the secret backdoor to owning world-class European steel for under $600. It's the rifle for the guy who wants military-grade reliability with the elegance of a high-end hunting rifle.
Number 12. The Chinese Type 56 SKS with the fixed magazine. In 2026, these are the heavy hitters of the budget category, ranging from $550 to $800. It's a bitter pill to swallow for those who remember 30 years ago, but the SKS is no longer the cheap gun. It's the final frontier of affordable semi-automatic surplus. Directive language, look at the bore. One of the biggest selling points of the Chinese Type 56 is the chrome-lined barrel, which makes them incredibly resistant to the corrosive surplus ammo still floating around. Unlike the bolt actions we've talked about, this gives you 10 rounds of 7.62 by 39 at your fingertips as fast as you can pull the trigger. Watch the way the internal box magazine hinges open. It's a design that's nearly impossible to break. If you're looking for a rifle that bridges the gap between the bolt-action era and the modern sporting rifle, this is it. It's the most expensive cheap rifle on our list, but it's also the one that offers the most practical capability for home defense or target practice in the modern day. Looking back at this list, the reality of the 2026 market is clear. The floor has moved, but the value is still there if you're willing to look at the unconventional choices. From the $150 Carcano that fits in your trunk to the $800 SKS that stands as a legitimate defensive tool, military surplus remains the most soul-filled way to build a collection. The key is knowing which rifles are sleepers and which ones are priced low for a reason. Don't wait for the prices to drop back to 2010 levels. History only moves in one direction, and these 12 rifles are the last call for the affordable surplus era. The surplus market isn't what it used to be, but as we've seen, the golden age is just hiding in different corners of the world. Now, I want to hear from you. If you had $500 in your pocket right now, which one of these 12 are you taking home? Or is there a sleeper rifle I completely missed that's still hitting the shelves under budget? Drop your choice in the comments. I'll be down there to see who's actually found the best deal of 2026. If this deep dive helped you navigate the current market, hit that subscribe button and join the arsenal here at Weaponology. We've got a massive breakdown of the rarest Cold War imports coming up next, and you won't want to miss the price trends on those. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you at the range.